Hey all, Dr. JRK here, and I'm going to show you a video of Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, who thinks AI is conscious and is going to kill us all. So that's cool. Let's watch it and I'll discuss. Cheers.
But the first thing to ask is, how many examples do you know of more intelligent things being controlled by much less intelligent things? There are examples, of course, in human societies of stupid people controlling intelligent people, but that's just a small difference in intelligence. With big differences in intelligence, there aren't any examples. The only one I can think of is a mother and baby, and evolution put a lot of work into allowing the baby to control the mother. So as soon as you get evolution happening between superintelligences, suppose there's several different superintelligences, and they all realize that the more data centers they control, the smarter they'll get, because the more data they can process. Suppose one of them just has a slight desire to have more copies of itself. You can see what's going to happen next.
You're talking about them, Professor Hinton, as if they have full consciousness. Now, all the way through the development of computers and AI, people have talked about consciousness. Do you think that consciousness has perhaps already arrived inside AI?
Yes, I do. So let me give you a little test. Suppose I take one neuron in your brain, one brain cell, and I replace it by a little piece of nanotechnology that behaves exactly the same way. So it's getting pings coming in from other neurons, and it's responding to those by sending out pings, and it responds in exactly the same way as the brain cell responded. I just replaced one brain cell. Are you still conscious? I think you say you were.
Absolutely, yes. I don't suppose I'd notice.
I'm going to step in here and say I don't fully agree that AI is conscious already. I think that's kind of a bold claim. I am, however, sympathetic to the worries that these intelligent LLMs could, you know, overstep their their boundaries, their prescribed boundaries, and start competing with one another and whatnot. The question of consciousness, though, I think that's a little bit of a bold statement. We don't really fully understand what consciousness is. It's an emergent property. And I think that, just calling a bunch of neurons connected together, a representation of the human brain is a little bit jumping the gun. I think the brain is much more complicated than that. I think, this is my personal opinion. I could be wrong, but based on what I understand, is that we don't fully understand the human mind, and therefore we're not going to be able to explicitly recreate that something we don't understand onto a series of transistors and recreate this conscious experience that we have until we fully understand it. I mean, I will say that there's evidence to back this up. I mean, for instance, there's this research about higher dimensional brain activity where you have neurons that more or less work in sort of cliques, and they transport information along higher sort of the stratified structures. And we don't, we haven't explicitly programmed any computer to behave in this way. The other evidence that has come up is something I've always kind of suspected about the human brain, is that there is evidence that it works quantum mechanically in some sense, and that short-term memory performance and conscious awareness are emergent from quantum processes in our brain functions. And this paper here details that. So if our brains work quantum mechanically and in this higher dimensional interconnected way, that may have something to do with consciousness. And I don't know if you can just go ahead and say that. And the other thing is testing whether they are conscious or not. These algorithms is kind of fucked, because we are training with data that talks about consciousness all the time. So the computer could like understand what consciousness is in an abstract way by piecing together this training data and then just regurgitating that it is conscious. One way to get around that would be to train a computer without any mention of consciousness anywhere and see if it can sort of produce evidence in one way or another that it understands what consciousness is without having been explicitly trained on data that talks about it. But yeah, man, the Godfather AI, you can't just dismiss what he says. It is scary, and President Dipshit just uh, threw out all regulations around safety around AI. I think they're infusing it in nuclear technology now and nuclear arms departments, and yeah, what could go wrong? You know, between this and climate change, we got the Fermi paradox solving itself pretty fucking fast, bros.